My name is Sarah Miller. I'm 32 years old, and this is the story of the Thanksgiving that changed everything. Imagine standing at the door of the home you've known for 24 years, listening to your parents tell you that you're not welcome at the family table because blood comes first. After decades of being their daughter, suddenly you're just the charity case they took in. But what they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that their own mother had already made a choice that would flip our entire family dynamic upside down. Before I continue with what happened that day, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Drop a comment below. Now let me take you back to that morning. It was supposed to be just another Thanksgiving, another year of helping Mom prepare her famous cranberry sauce while Dad carved the turkey. I had no idea that by sunset, I'd own everything they thought was theirs. You need to understand something about my place in the Miller family. I was 8 years old when my birth parents died in a car accident. No relatives to take me in, no inheritance to sweeten the deal, just a scared little girl with a garbage bag full of clothes and a teddy bear named Mr. Buttons. Robert and Patricia Miller adopted me 3 months later. On paper, I became their daughter. In reality, I was the living, breathing tax deduction who happened to sleep down the hall from their real daughter, Jessica. The reminders were subtle at first. Jessica got her mother's eyes, they'd say at family gatherings, while I stood there obviously different with my auburn hair in a sea of blondes. Blood is blood became Robert's favorite phrase whenever Jessica and I competed for anything: attention, resources, opportunities. By high school, the pattern was crystal clear. Jessica needed a car for her 16th birthday, brand new BMW, when I turned 16. Sarah, you understand we need to be fair. The bus builds character. Jessica wanted to study art history at a private college that cost $60,000 a year. Follow your dreams, sweetheart. When I got into Northwestern for accounting, state school is more practical, Sarah. We shouldn't spoil you. But here's the thing. I made state school work, graduated summa cum laude, passed my CPA exam on the first try, and guess where I ended up working? Thompson Industries, the family company, the one Grandma Dorothy built from nothing in 1962. For 8 years, I've been the company's chief financial officer. Not because I was family, God knows Robert reminded me weekly that I was there despite not being blood, but because I was damn good at my job. While Jessica floated through the marketing department, arriving late and leaving early, I was pulling 12-hour days restructuring debt and finding tax advantages that kept us profitable. The photo wall in the executive hallway told the real story. 3 generations of Millers, all blonde, all smiling, all connected by blood and privilege. And then my corporate headshot, hung slightly apart, like an afterthought someone remembered to include for legal reasons. Every family photo had me standing slightly apart, like a guest who stayed too long. Want to know the real kicker? In 2019, Thompson Industries was 48 hours from bankruptcy. Robert had made a series of terrible investments: crypto ventures he didn't understand, expansion into markets we couldn't sustain. The board was ready to sell to our biggest competitor for pennies on the dollar. I worked 96 hours straight that week, restructured our entire debt portfolio, negotiated with 17 different creditors, and somehow convinced our biggest client to advance their annual payment. I saved the company, not Jessica with her Instagram marketing campaigns, not Robert with his golf course networking, me, the outsider. The following Monday, Robert called a company meeting. I want to thank everyone for weathering this storm, he said, looking directly at Jessica, especially my daughter, whose innovative marketing strategies kept our brand strong during these challenging times. I stood in the back of that conference room, invisible, while Jessica took a bow for work she didn't do. Later, when I confronted Robert in his office, you know what he said? Sarah, you should be grateful we gave you a home. Not everyone would have taken in a stranger's child. A stranger's child, after 24 years. That same month, Jessica was promoted to Executive Vice President of Marketing. Her qualifications? She was a Miller. Her salary? Double mine. Her actual contributions to the company? I'm still looking for them. Meanwhile, I discovered something interesting in the books. Robert had been moving money, small amounts but consistently, from the corporate accounts to a private LLC in Jessica's name. When I brought it up, he laughed. Family business, Sarah. Real family. You wouldn't understand. 3 months before she died, Grandma Dorothy called me into her study. She was 93, sharp as a tack, and absolutely disgusted by something. Sarah, dear, she said, pouring herself a brandy despite her doctor's orders. Tell me, what do you think makes someone family? I gave her some diplomatic answer about love and commitment. She snorted. Bullshit! Family is who shows up when everything goes to hell. Remember that. I thought she was having one of her philosophical moments. Grandma Dorothy was known for those random pearls of wisdom between complaints about her arthritis. I had no idea she was trying to tell me something much more specific. You should be grateful we gave you a home, became their favorite reminder. Fast forward to 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. I was reviewing quarterly reports when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Thomson Industries was preparing for an IPO, initial public offering, which would take us public and potentially net the family millions. But the paperwork was all wrong, deliberately wrong. The financial statements Robert submitted to the SEC showed inflated revenues and hidden debts, the kind of creative accounting that sends people to federal prison. And whose signature was on every single document as chief financial officer? Mine. I hadn't signed these papers, but there was my signature, perfectly forged, on documents claiming our revenue was 40% higher than reality. If this went through and the SEC investigated, when they investigated, the paper trail would lead straight to me, the adopted daughter with access to all the financial systems, the convenient scapegoat. I confronted Robert immediately. His response chilled me. Sarah, you've been under a lot of stress. Maybe you signed these and forgot? It happens. Besides, who's going to believe you didn't know? You're the CFO. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. If I stayed silent, I'd be complicit in securities fraud. If I blew the whistle, it would be my word against the entire Miller family. An outsider accusing blood relatives of conspiracy? I could already see the headlines. Ungrateful adopted daughter attempts to destroy family who saved her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I ran through every scenario, every possible outcome. Best case if I stayed silent? I'd keep my job but live under Robert's thumb forever, knowing he could destroy me with one phone call to the FBI. Worst case? 3 to 5 years in federal prison when the scheme inevitably collapsed. But then I found an email in my personal inbox, sent from Jessica's account but clearly meant for Robert. She'd clicked reply all by mistake. Dad, Sarah's getting suspicious about the IPO docs. After Thanksgiving, we should terminate her position. I've already drafted the resignation letter citing personal reasons. Once she's gone, we can blame any discrepancies on her negligence. The paper trail would lead back to me, the convenient scapegoat. They weren't just excluding me from family dinners, they were setting me up to take the fall for their crimes. 2 days after finding Jessica's email, my phone rang at 6 a.m. James Harrison, the family's attorney for 40 years, voice unusually tense. Sarah, I need to speak with you urgently. Not over the phone. Can you meet me at my office? Is everything okay, Mr. Harrison? Just don't sign anything until we talk. Nothing at all. Promise me. The line went dead. Harrison had never called me directly before. All family legal matters went through Robert. Something was happening, and I had no idea what. That afternoon, Robert summoned me to his office. On his desk was a stack of documents and a Mont Blanc pen, his favorite power move, making people sign things with his personal pen like he was doing them a favor. Sarah, we need to streamline operations before the IPO, he said, not meeting my eyes. I need you to sign this transition agreement. It's just paperwork authorizing Jessica to take over some of your responsibilities. Temporary, of course. I picked up the document. Buried on page 7, in legal jargon designed to confuse, a full resignation from my position, effective immediately after Thanksgiving. with a clause preventing me from working for any competitor for 5 years. Another clause: I would assume full liability for any accounting irregularities discovered in the past fiscal year. I'll need time to review this with my attorney, I said. Robert's face darkened. Your attorney? Since when do you have an attorney? We're family, Sarah. Family doesn't need lawyers. Then why is this document 40 pages long? He stood up, using his full height to intimidate me. Sign it now, or don't bother coming to Thanksgiving. Your choice. Mr. Harrison's message was cryptic. Don't sign anything until we talk. I left without signing, but his threat echoed in my mind. Don't come to Thanksgiving? After 24 years of helping Patricia cook, of pretending Jessica's cruel jokes were funny, of smiling through blood is blood comments? The exclusion hurt more than I expected. Harrison finally called back that evening. Sarah, I can't say much due to attorney-client privilege, but Dorothy, she made certain arrangements before she passed. Everything will become clear after Thanksgiving. Just be at that dinner, no matter what they say. Mr. Harrison, they might not let me in. Then make sure there are witnesses. The more, the better. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold. I drove to the Miller house at 9 a.m. like I had for 24 years, carrying my homemade pumpkin pie and the special cranberry sauce Patricia always asked me to make, but never admitted was better than hers. The driveway was packed. Strange. Usually only immediate family came this early. I recognized cars belonging to Robert's brother, Patricia's sister, cousins who typically showed up just for dinner. Through the window I could see at least 30 people already gathered. I knocked and entered through the kitchen door, same as always. Patricia stood at the stove, her back rigid. You're early, she said without turning around. Same time as every year, Mom. The word felt bitter in my mouth. Don't call me that. Not today. Jessica appeared in the doorway, wearing a new dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Oh, look who decided to show up. The charity case. I brought the cranberry sauce, I said, keeping my voice level. We ordered catering this year, Jessica smirked. Real family sits at the main table. I've sat there for 24 years. Things change. Robert's voice boomed from the living room. Everyone gather round. I have an important announcement after dinner. I moved toward the dining room to set the table, my usual job, but Patricia blocked my path. That won't be necessary. We've hired help for that. The morning crawled by in a series of small humiliations. Every time I tried to help, someone redirected me. Every conversation I joined suddenly died. Cousins who usually hugged me barely made eye contact. It was orchestrated, deliberate. They were all in on something. Around noon, I noticed something odd. James Harrison's Mercedes pulled into the driveway. The family attorney, at Thanksgiving dinner? Then I saw him pull a leather briefcase from his trunk. Official business. Why is Mr. Harrison here? I asked Patricia. She finally looked at me, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? Business matters. Nothing that concerns you. At 2 p.m., as everyone began moving toward the dining room for dinner, Robert and Patricia intercepted me at the front entrance. Robert's hand pressed against the doorframe, blocking my path. This is for family only, he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. Real family. The foyer went silent. 30 relatives watched as Robert and Patricia literally blocked me from entering my own home. Well, what I'd thought was my home. You're seriously doing this? I asked, my voice steady despite the humiliation burning through me. On Thanksgiving? Blood is blood, Sarah, Robert said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You were always a temporary arrangement, a charity case we took in. But family business is for actual family. 24 years meant nothing? Patricia finally spoke, her voice cold and rehearsed. You were always temporary. We gave you a good life, paid for your education. That contract is complete. Contract, like raising a child was a business transaction. Jessica pushed between them, holding a manila envelope. Here's your severance package from the company. Dad's being generous. 2 weeks' pay. You have until Monday to clean out your desk. The cousins behind them shifted uncomfortably. Robert's brother Marcus actually looked ashamed. But nobody spoke up. Nobody defended me. The silence was deafening. So that's it? I said. I save your company from bankruptcy, and this is how you— You were an employee, Robert cut me off. Nothing more. Now leave before this gets unpleasant. That's when James Harrison's voice cut through the tension like a blade. I'm afraid Ms. Miller needs to stay. Everyone turned. Harrison stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, his expression professionally neutral, but his eyes sharp. This is a private family gathering, Robert sputtered, and I'm here on official legal business that requires all beneficiaries to be present. Harrison stepped inside without invitation, including Ms. Miller. She's not a beneficiary of anything, Patricia said quickly. Too quickly. Harrison's slight smile was almost imperceptible. That's not for you to determine, Mrs. Miller. Dorothy Thompson's will specifically requires Sarah Miller's presence for the reading. Robert laughed, but it sounded forced. Mother probably left her a few $1,000s, some token amount. She can receive it through the mail. The will must be read today, on Thanksgiving, with all parties present. Those were Dorothy's explicit instructions. Harrison looked directly at me. Ms. Miller, would you please come inside? The power shift was subtle but seismic. Robert couldn't physically block me now, not without defying legal proceedings in front of 30 witnesses. Have you ever been rejected by the very people who were supposed to love you unconditionally? I know exactly how that isolation feels. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like and subscribe to support the channel. Comment family below if you believe that family isn't just about blood, it's about who chooses to stand by you. And now, let me tell you what happened when Mr. Harrison opened that briefcase. The dining room felt like a courtroom as Harrison set his briefcase on the table. The same table where I'd eaten hundreds of meals, pretending to belong. Robert and Patricia sat at the head, their positions of power. Jessica flanked them, already smirking about her inheritance. Before we begin, Harrison said, pulling out a sealed envelope, I need to confirm everyone's presence. He read through a list of names, all family members, all present. Then, Sarah Miller, adopted daughter of Robert and Patricia Miller. Former adopted daughter, Robert corrected. We're dissolving that arrangement. Harrison's eyebrows rose slightly. You can't retroactively dissolve an adoption, Mr. Miller. Legally, Sarah remains your daughter. The room stirred with whispers. I noticed Aunt Helen, Patricia's sister, actually looked surprised. They hadn't told everyone their plan. Harrison continued. Mrs. Thompson updated her will 6 months before her passing. She was quite specific about her wishes. He looked at Robert. She also insisted I record the reading to avoid any misunderstandings. He pulled out his phone, set it to record, and placed it prominently on the table. Several relatives shifted nervously. Furthermore, Harrison added, Mrs. Thompson left video messages to accompany certain provisions. She wanted her intentions crystal clear. Patricia's face had gone pale. Video messages? Mother never mentioned— There's quite a bit Dorothy never mentioned to you, Harrison said mildly. Shall we begin? Robert leaned back in his chair, still confident. Get on with it then. I have a company to run tomorrow. Interesting you mention the company, Harrison murmured, opening the will. That features prominently in Dorothy's final wishes. I caught Marcus, Robert's brother, exchanging glances with his wife. They knew something was off. The atmosphere had shifted from smug certainty to uneasy anticipation. One more thing, Harrison said, looking directly at me. Sarah, Dorothy wanted me to tell you something before we begin. She said, blood may be thick, but loyalty is everything. She wanted you to know she was watching, always watching. Jessica laughed. Watching what? Sarah making spreadsheets? Harrison's expression didn't change, but his tone carried weight. Watching everything, Ms. Miller, every decision, every betrayal, every kindness. He opened the will. Dorothy Thompson saw it all. Before I read the distributions, Harrison said, adjusting his glasses, Dorothy wanted certain facts established for the record. He pulled out another document. Thompson Industries, founded 1962, built from Dorothy's inheritance from her father. Not Miller money, Thompson money. This is important. Robert shifted impatiently. We all know Mother built the company. Do you know she never legally transferred ownership to you? Harrison asked quietly. The room went still. What are you talking about? Robert's voice cracked slightly. I've been CEO for 15 years. CEO, yes. Owner, no. Harrison showed a document. Dorothy retained 100% ownership through a trust. You were always an employee, Robert, just like Sarah. Patricia stood up. This is ridiculous. Robert runs everything. Runs, yes. Owns, no. Harrison returned to the will. Now, let's discuss recent events. Dorothy was particularly interested in the attempted IPO filing. My heart stopped. She knew? What about it? Robert asked, too quickly. The fraudulent documents, the forged signatures, the plan to frame Sarah. Harrison's voice remained calm, professional. Dorothy had a private investigator documenting everything for the last 2 years of her life. Jessica's phone clattered to the floor. Private investigator? Oh yes, she has quite a file. Email records, recorded conversations, even video of certain meetings where you discussed, what was the phrase? Getting rid of the charity case after Thanksgiving. I looked around the room. The extended family was riveted, some recording on their phones. Robert's face had gone from red to white. Mother wouldn't she? Harrison pulled out an iPad. She left a video message about this exact topic. Shall we watch? Before anyone could object, he pressed play. Dorothy's face filled the screen, sharp-eyed and disgusted. If you're watching this, it means I'm dead, and you're about to learn who I really left my legacy to. Robert, you always assumed blood meant everything, but you forgot what I built this company on. Integrity. When you started stealing from it, when you plotted to frame Sarah for your crimes, you proved you're not my son in any way that matters. Patricia gasped. She knew? The video continued. I know about the IPO fraud. I know about the forged signatures. I know you plan to destroy the one person who actually saved my company. Harrison paused the video. Should I continue? Or would you prefer to hear the distributions first? Robert stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. This is entrapment, coercion. Mother wasn't in her right mind. Sit down, Robert, Harrison said calmly. We're just getting started. Patricia turned on me, her perfectly manicured finger pointing. You manipulated her. You turned her against us. I hadn't spoken to Grandma Dorothy in 3 months before she died, I said quietly. You made sure of that, remember? You said I was upsetting her with my presence. Jessica laughed, but it sounded hysterical. This is ridiculous. Grandma loved us. We're her actual family. Sarah's just what? Harrison asked. The one who saved the company? The one who worked 18-hour days while you posted Instagram stories from Cabo? She's nobody, Jessica shrieked. A nobody we took in out of pity. Is that so? Harrison pulled out a financial report. Let me read some numbers. Company value when Sarah joined as CFO, $2.8 million. Company value today, $12 million. Growth directly attributed to Sarah's financial restructuring, 78%. The extended family murmured. Cousin David actually whistled. Robert tried to regain control. Numbers can be manipulated. Sarah probably what? Did her job while you embezzled? Harrison's professionalism finally cracked slightly. Should we discuss the LLC in Jessica's name? The one receiving $5,000 monthly from company accounts? That's a legitimate business expense, Robert protested. For what business? Jessica's fashion blog with 12 followers? Someone in the back actually laughed. Robert's brother Marcus covered his mouth, but his eyes were dancing. Enough! Patricia stood, gathering her purse. We don't have to listen to this. Robert, we're leaving. Oh, I wouldn't do that, Harrison said mildly. Not unless you want me to read the will without you present. The parts about criminal referrals to the FBI might sound worse without context. They froze. Criminal referrals? Robert's voice was barely a whisper. Did you think Dorothy would let you frame her granddaughter for fraud? The woman who built an empire from nothing? Harrison shook his head. You never knew her at all. Sarah is not her granddaughter, Patricia screamed. She's nothing to us. Harrison smiled then, a real smile. Funny you should say that. Let's discuss what Dorothy thought about who is and isn't family. Harrison lifted the will, his hands steady as a surgeon's. I'll read Dorothy Thompson's exact words. The room held its breath. Even the cousins recording on their phones went silent. I, Dorothy Elizabeth Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. I revoke all prior wills and codicils. Standard opening. Robert relaxed slightly. First, I must address the elephants in the room. Yes, plural. My son Robert has spent the last 15 years believing he owns Thompson Industries. He doesn't. He also believes blood makes family. It doesn't. Patricia gripped Robert's arm. Their knuckles were white. To my son Robert Mueller, I leave the sum of $1 and my profound disappointment. You had everything: privilege, education, opportunity, and you chose to become a thief and a bully. The company you thought was yours? It never was. The money you stole? I documented every penny. This can't be legal, Robert shouted, standing again. I'll contest this. Please do, Harrison said. Dorothy hoped you would. She set aside $500,000 specifically for legal fees to defend against your challenges. She was quite thorough. He continued reading. To my granddaughter Jessica Miller, I leave $1 and a piece of advice. Instagram followers won't pay your bills when daddy's money runs out. Jessica burst into tears. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind she usually deployed. To my daughter-in-law Patricia Miller, I leave $1 and the knowledge that I heard every cruel word you said to Sarah when you thought I was napping. Every single one. The extended family was absolutely riveted. Aunt Helen had her hand over her mouth. Marcus was no longer hiding his satisfaction. Now, Harrison said, his voice carrying weight, we come to the primary beneficiary. Robert laughed bitterly. What, did she leave it all to charity? Just to spite us? Not exactly. Harrison looked directly at me. Sarah, Dorothy wanted you to know something. 3 months before she died, she hired that private investigator not just to watch Robert, but to research your background. My background? I was confused. Why? Because she wanted to be absolutely certain her decision was right. What she found confirmed what she already knew from watching you for 24 years. Harrison cleared his throat and read the words that would change everything. To my son Robert, I leave $1 and my disappointment. Harrison's voice rang clear in the silent room. Robert's face went from red to purple. $1? He choked. $1? Let me continue, Harrison said. Robert, you assumed you'd inherit everything because you're blood. But you forgot that blood can be poisoned. You poisoned yours with greed, cruelty, and fraud. The FBI will be interested in your IPO documents. I've made sure of that. She contacted the FBI? Patricia gasped. Not yet, Harrison clarified. That's contingent on Robert's behavior going forward. Consider it incentive to cooperate with the transition. What transition? Robert demanded. Harrison kept reading. To Jessica Miller, my granddaughter by blood but not by character, I leave $1 in this truth. You watched your parents torment Sarah for years and laughed along. You're 28 years old with no skills, no work ethic, and no empathy. The real world will be your teacher now. Jessica's sobs grew louder. Grandma, how could you? To Patricia Miller, Harrison continued, who spent 24 years reminding an orphaned child that she didn't belong. I leave $1 and this message. I saw you steal Sarah's birthday money when she was 12. I saw you give her secondhand clothes while buying Jessica designer brands. I saw it all, and I was disgusted. The room erupted in whispers. Aunt Helen actually moved away from Patricia, as if her cruelty was contagious. This is insane, Robert shouted. Mother lost her mind. Dementia. We'll prove it. Harrison pulled out a medical report. Dorothy had 3 separate cognitive evaluations in her last year, all perfect scores. She also had 2 psychiatrists confirm her mental fitness. She anticipated your moves, Robert. But, but the company, Robert sputtered. If not me, then who? She wouldn't leave it to strangers. Harrison's pause was theatrical. You're right. She didn't leave it to strangers. He looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes. Respect? Vindication? To Sarah Miller, he read, whom I choose as my true granddaughter not by blood but by character, I leave the entirety of my estate, including Thompson Industries, all associated properties, and liquid assets totaling approximately $12 million. The silence was deafening. Then, chaos. What? Robert roared. Impossible! Patricia shrieked. She can't, Jessica wailed. But I couldn't speak. $12 million? The entire company? Harrison raised his voice over the din. There's more! Dorothy left a video message for this moment. He pulled out his iPad again, and Dorothy's face appeared on the screen. This time, she was smiling. Dorothy's face filled the screen, her eyes sharp and knowing even at 93. Hello, everyone. If you're watching this, it means Harrison just dropped what you kids call a truth bomb. She chuckled. Sarah, my dear, I know you're shocked. You shouldn't be. I felt tears streaming down my face as her familiar voice filled the room. 24 years ago, my son brought home an 8-year-old girl who'd lost everything. I watched that little girl grow up in a house where she was never allowed to forget she was an outsider. But here's what Robert and Patricia never understood. That adversity made you stronger than Jessica could ever be. The video, Dorothy looked directly at the camera, as if seeing through time. Sarah, you saved my company while my son was stealing from it. You worked 18-hour days while Jessica posted selfies. You showed up every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every birthday, despite being treated like hired help. That's not obligation, dear. That's character. Robert tried to speak, but Harrison shushed him. Robert, you're probably screaming about blood rights and legal challenges, Dorothy continued. Save your breath. I spent 2 years making this will ironclad. Every lawyer in the state has been consulted, every loophole closed. The camera angle shifted slightly, showing Dorothy holding a stack of documents. These are the real books from Thompson Industries, the ones showing Robert embezzled $400,000 over 5 years. The ones showing Sarah not only covered those losses but grew the company by 300%. The ones proving that blood disappointed me while choice made me proud. Patricia had collapsed into a chair, white as a sheet. Jessica was typing furiously on her phone, probably Googling lawyers. Sarah, Dorothy's voice softened. I'm sorry I didn't intervene sooner. I wanted to, but my lawyer said I needed to document everything for this to stick. Every cruel word, every stolen opportunity, every moment they made you feel less than. I have it all. She held up a thick folder. 73 instances of financial abuse, 41 examples of emotional manipulation. 18 times they explicitly told you that you weren't real family. Well, my dear, you were the only real family I had in that house. The video, Dorothy smiled, and it was fierce. You chose to love people who didn't love you back. You chose to save a company that wouldn't save you. You chose integrity when everyone around you chose greed. Blood didn't do that, you did. She looked directly at the camera one last time. Welcome to your inheritance, Sarah. You've already earned it 1,000 times over. And Robert, pack your desk. Your services as CEO are no longer required. The video ended. The room exploded. Wow, did you see that coming? This is what happens when karma finally shows up to the party. If you're breathing a sigh of relief for Sarah right now, smash that like button. Comment justice below if you think Dorothy made the right choice. Share this story with anyone who needs to hear that family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up when life gets hard. Now, let's see how the Miller family handled losing everything they thought was theirs. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky but my voice steady. The room fell silent, 30 pairs of eyes on me. Mr. Harrison, is this legally binding? Immediately? As of Dorothy's death 3 months ago, you've been the owner of Thompson Industries. I've been managing it in trust, waiting for today. He handed me a folder. Congratulations, CEO Miller. I turned to Robert, who looked like he'd been punched. Robert, you have 30 days to transition your responsibilities and clean out your office. I'll provide a severance package, 3 months' salary. That's more generous than what you offered me an hour ago. You can't do this, he sputtered. I can and I am. I turned to Jessica. Your position is terminated effective immediately. You never had a real contract anyway. Robert just put you on payroll. Security will escort you to clear your desk on Monday. Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But I need that job. No, you needed to do that job. There's a difference. I looked at Patricia. The house you're living in is corporate property. You have 60 days to relocate. 60 days, Patricia shrieked. Where will we go? That's not my concern, though I hear the apartments on Maple Street are nice. You know, the ones you said were good enough for Sarah when I asked for help with my first place. Marcus actually applauded. His wife elbowed him, but she was smiling too. This is vengeful, Robert shouted. Cruel. No, I said calmly. Cruel is telling an 8-year-old she's lucky anyone wanted her. Cruel is stealing from your mother's company while your adopted daughter fixes your mistakes. This is just business. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Jennifer? Yes, it's Sarah. I need you to freeze all corporate credit cards in Robert and Jessica Miller's names. Immediately. Thank you. You planned this, Patricia accused. Actually, Dorothy planned this. I'm just executing her wishes. I looked around the room at the extended family. For everyone else, nothing changes. The company will continue operating, probably better without the embezzlement. Harrison handed me another document. Sarah, Dorothy also wanted you to know she's established a foundation in your name. 10% of company profits go to supporting orphaned children. She thought you'd approve. I had to sit down again, overwhelmed. She did? With a special note. Every child deserves to feel chosen, not just tolerated. Looking at my former family's devastated faces, I could have twisted the knife. God knows they deserved it. But Dorothy raised me better than that, even from a distance. Robert, I said, if you cooperate with the transition and return the embezzled funds, I won't pursue criminal charges. His head snapped up. You'd do that? I'm not you. I don't kick people when they're down. I pulled out a document I'd prepared weeks ago, hoping I'd never need it. This is a consulting agreement. 1 year, half your current salary. You'll help transition your client relationships and knowledge. Take it or leave it. Robert's hands shook as he took the paper. Why? Because despite everything, you did teach me about business. Granted, mostly by showing me what not to do, but still. I turned to Jessica. I'll give you a reference letter for entry-level positions. Nothing fancy, but honest about your potential if you're willing to work for it. Jessica stared at me like I'd grown a second head. After everything? Dorothy believed in second chances, just not third, fourth, or fifth ones. I addressed Patricia. I'll extend the move-out period to 90 days, and I'll cover first and last month's rent on a reasonable apartment. Why? Patricia whispered. We were horrible to you. Yes, you were. But becoming you won't fix that. I stood, addressing the room. Dorothy Thompson built this company on integrity and hard work. I intend to honor that. Anyone currently employed stays employed if they're doing their job. No revenge firings, no petty politics. Aunt Helen spoke up for the first time. Sarah, dear, I'm sorry. We all saw how they treated you. We should have said something. Yes, you should have, I agreed. But that's between you and your conscience. Harrison cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Dorothy left specific instructions for the Foundation's first initiative. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo of an 8-year-old girl with auburn hair standing outside a foster home with a garbage bag of belongings. She saved this? I gasped. With a note. This little girl became my true legacy. Help other little girls find their strength, too. I looked at Robert, Patricia, and Jessica one last time. You spent 24 years telling me I wasn't family. You were right. I was something better. I was chosen by someone who saw my worth when you couldn't. The exodus began immediately. Robert's brother Marcus approached me first, extending his hand. Sarah, I'm ashamed I never spoke up. Dorothy would be proud of how you're handling this. Thank you, Marcus. I shook his hand, noting Patricia's glare from across the room. One by one, relatives filed past. Some offered congratulations, others mumbled apologies. A few just nodded and left. The cousins who'd been recording everything looked shell-shocked. This would be all over social media by evening. The news will spread fast, Harrison warned quietly. Small town, big money, everyone will know by tomorrow. Good, I said. Transparency was something Dorothy valued. Robert hadn't moved from his chair, staring at the consulting agreement. Finally, he spoke. I'll take it, the consulting position. Smart choice. Jennifer will have the formal papers Monday. Jessica was Googling apartment prices on her phone, tears streaming. These are all so expensive. How do people afford this? With jobs, I said simply. Real ones. Patricia stood abruptly. We're leaving. Robert, Jessica, now. But Robert didn't move. Pat, we need that consulting agreement. Without it, we have nothing. We have our dignity, Marcus laughed out loud. What dignity? You just tried to frame your adopted daughter for fraud. The room tensed again. Patricia's face went scarlet. How dare you? How dare I what? Tell the truth? Marcus stood. We all knew what you were doing. The whole family knew. We were just too cowardly to stop it. His wife Linda added, Sarah worked every holiday while Jessica got drunk and posted about it. We all saw. And said nothing, I pointed out. You all said nothing. The shame in the room was palpable. Good. They should feel it. Harrison began packing his briefcase. Sarah, I'll need you at my office Monday to sign the transfer papers, 9 a.m. I'll be there. As the room emptied, Robert finally stood. He looked older, defeated. Sarah, your parents would be proud. Don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare mention them. You used their death as leverage for 24 years. Their memory is mine, not yours. He flinched. I suppose I deserve that. You deserve far worse. Be grateful I'm better than you. The same relatives who laughed at their jokes an hour ago were now asking if Thompson Industries was hiring. 6 months later, Thompson Industries was unrecognizable. In the best way. Our stock value increased 40% in my first quarter as CEO. Turns out, when you stop embezzling and start investing in your employees, companies thrive. Who knew? Robert honored the consulting agreement, showing up every day in a suit that gradually became less expensive as reality set in. He was professional, even helpful, finally seeing the damage his creative accounting had caused. During our transition meetings, he occasionally forgot and tried to give me orders. I'd simply stare until he remembered who signed his paychecks now. The Yamamoto account wants to expand their contract, he told me one Tuesday. They specifically asked for you. They never asked for me when you were CEO. No, he admitted quietly. I told them you were just support staff. The truth had a way of surfacing now that Dorothy's investigation files were open. Every lie, every theft, every manipulation. Documented and verified. Jessica found a job at a marketing firm. Entry level, just like everyone else starting out. She called me after her first month. They made me get coffee for everyone, she said, incredulous. Me! Welcome to the real world, Jessica. I I wanted to apologize for everything. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want, Jessica? Forgiveness? That's earned, not demanded. She was quiet then. How do I earn it? Start by being better, not for me, but for yourself. Patricia moved to Florida to live with her sister. I heard through Aunt Helen that she told everyone I'd stolen her inheritance. Helen, to her credit, started correcting that narrative. Sarah didn't steal anything. She earned what Dorothy freely gave. The foundation Dorothy established in my name had already helped 12 foster children find permanent homes and funded college scholarships for 20 more. Every quarterly board meeting, I displayed their photos, kids who wouldn't be forgotten, wouldn't be temporary. My favorite change? The executive photo wall. 3 generations of Millers had been replaced with pictures of all our employees, every single one, because that's what real family looked like, people who showed up, worked hard, and supported each other. The company stock rose 40% in my first quarter as CEO, became my favorite statistic. Not because of the money, but because it proved Dorothy right. Merit beats blood every time. Today, 2 years after that Thanksgiving, I'm sitting in Dorothy's old office, my office now. The desk where she built an empire holds a photo I discovered in her papers. 8-year-old me on my first day with the Millers, clutching Mr. Buttons, my teddy bear. Dorothy had written on the back, "The day my real granddaughter came home." She saw me from the very beginning, even when I couldn't see myself. Robert still works here as a consultant, though his contract ends next month. We're professional, cordial even, but we'll never be father and daughter. That relationship died the day he tried to frame me for his crimes. He asked me once if I ever loved them. "I love the idea of you," I told him. "The parents I needed you to be. But you never existed, did you?" He had no answer for that. Jessica sent me a birthday card last month. Inside, she wrote, "Thank you for not destroying us when you could have." I didn't respond. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. But I did notice she'd been promoted at her job. Earned, not given. Maybe there's hope for her yet. Patricia never contacted me again. I heard she tells people I was ungrateful and manipulative. Let her. The truth doesn't need defending when the evidence speaks for itself. But here's what I learned through all of this. Family isn't about blood. It's about choice. Dorothy chose me, a scared 8-year-old with nothing but a garbage bag and a teddy bear. She chose to see past the surface to who I could become. My real family now? It's Harrison, who checks on me every week, just because. It's Jennifer, my assistant, who brought me soup when I had the flu. It's the security guard, Thomas, who walked me to my car every night when the threats from Robert's supporters got ugly. It's the 12 foster kids our foundation has helped, who send me drawings and call me Aunt Sarah. Family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up when life gets hard. I've set clear boundaries now. No toxic relationships, regardless of history. No guilt trips disguised as family obligations. No accepting less than I deserve because someone thinks I should be grateful. Dorothy taught me that, even from beyond. The Millers thought they were teaching me my place. Beneath them, beside them, but never with them. Instead, they taught me resilience. They taught me that love isn't owed, it's earned. They taught me that sometimes the family you choose is infinitely more valuable than the family you're given. Every Thanksgiving now, I host dinner at my home. Not the corporate property Patricia had to leave, but my own place, bought with my own money. My table is full of chosen family, employees who became friends, foster kids who needed somewhere to belong, and yes, even Aunt Helen, who finally found the courage to stand up to Patricia. We don't say grace. Instead, we share what we're genuinely grateful for. Last year, 9-year-old Marcus, one of our foster kids, said, "I'm grateful for people who see me." I knew exactly what he meant. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? What was your Thanksgiving revelation? Share your story below, because sometimes the best family is the one that chooses you back. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt like you didn't belong, remember this: your worth isn't determined by those who can't see it. You deserve to be chosen, celebrated, and genuinely loved. So I have to ask, are you Team Blood or Team Choice? Comment below and let me know. If this story inspired you to set your own boundaries or recognize your own worth, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories about justice, courage, and finding your real family. Until next time, remember, you define your worth, no one else.